Anybody want to play a little bit of 3 brass Monty? You pick. This one? Today's video is brought to you by brass. Now I have all sorts of brass, and I can't say that I have paid for any of this brass. It has just been given to me over the time of this build I've been working on, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that. A lot of this bigger stuff, these big chunks, a friend of mine, Matt, gave to me. He's got some other big brass here. A buddy of mine, Freddie, gave to me. I even got some scrap brass from work. This will clean up nicely, you'll see. And we have all shapes and sizes. We have long tubes, short tubes. We have pipe, bar stock. We even have some square stock. Haven't used that yet, but that'll be for something eventually. So yeah, this video is brought to you by a lot of brass. If I wasn't doing a brass theme, I don't know what else I would be doing, but this just kind of fits my build now, and I'm very, very pumped on doing everything that I can with brass. It's a lot of weight added to this car, but I'm not going for lightness here. I'm just going for a cool theme, something that'll look cool in the end. And hopefully we'll top out the other 2 cars that I've built. A lot of this stuff won't be used, but the stuff that I already have here will be used. I couldn't be any more stoked on how the build is coming, especially with all this brass. Sure, we can make something though out of all this other scrap brass. Thank you, brass, for being part of my car. If you're still watching, just click off now. Put my brass back. So this is some brass I got from work. I do plumbing now, and got some 2-inch brass here. It's thick walled, and I think I can utilize this stuff as something else besides scrap. So just bear with me, and we're gonna just make something, or make a few things, and I hope you guys like it. Just bear with me for a second here. This is no way in finished condition at all, but I'm just gonna go ahead and try and clean up the inside of this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just like a bunch of sediment buildup, some chlorine and stuff, just stuff that's in the water and what your typical water pipes. So I'm just gonna clean this out a little bit. All right, that should be good for now. I'll just I'll flip it around and get the other side that I missed. Alrighty, with the inside pretty much cleaned out, not perfect anyway. I'm gonna bring back this tool and bring it inboard more so there's no deflection. So I know I'm getting deflection with it. Ooh, that was tight. See if I can catch 3 of these bolts. I'll be happy with that. All right, that should be pretty good. Next, I'm gonna cut some inside threads in no particular thread pattern at all. I'm just gonna pick something I think is, I don't know. I'm just gonna pick something on the label here and see what we get. I wanna make a cap that'll fit nice and snug. I just did some fettling and I already chose a number here. I'm in the C category and I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on my dots here. So I'm at C6, which would be a 24 thread. So I'm gonna try a 24 thread, more on the finer side of threads. 24 threads per inch. All right, now to do threads in this machine, simply you just gotta put this lever here. Down here, it's gonna engage the gearbox to spin this spindle. You also have to click this over. That'll go in, it'll spin this in one direction. If you go the other way, it spins it the opposite direction. But we need to be in this direction. So once I click this over, it'll spin this spindle. And for the last part of this, to do threads, we have this other engagement arm here. Basically, when this spindle is spinning, push this down, it'll lock it to this spindle and the whole carriage will spin, or it'll drift. And you have this dial here, it's 1 through 4. And there's a little indication line here. When I do threads, I always just wait for this number dial to get to 1 and I click it. I do my pass and I unclick it. I rotate the saddle back, wait for this to get to 1, click it again. But before I click it, obviously you want to spin the saddle inwards or outwards to do a deeper cut on your thread. Kind of hard for me to explain this, but I'll just do my thing here. This side saddle here, for me, I always just make sure it's all the way locked in, because I don't want no side to side movement or nothing. So as long as that's locked in, that's pretty good. Spin this guy in. I bring it in here, and you just want to kiss the surface of the brass. That way you can do your first scratch pass here. So I'm all set up here. That's locked. RPM, speed on the machine, it's not really adjustable. I have 3 speeds, so I just run on like the lower speed I have. So I'll set this back, put this back in gear down here. Now I just wait for this dial to get to 1. And then it'll automatically feed in. First cut. Wait for the dial to go back to 1 and we'll click it again. I brought this down a little bit. Once it stops cutting in the channel, I know to unclick this up. I'm at 9.5 on my dial, so I'll go at 9.25, do another pass. Wait for this dial to get to 1. Do another pass. This time I'll go down to 9 exactly on my dial here. Click it at 1 again on my dial. Nope. Gotta go back, I was too far out. There we go. I'll do another pass at 9 just to clean it up. All right, so that was just only a couple passes. It's not nearly done. I got a couple more to do. After a couple passes, this is kind of what I ended up with. Not too bad. I'm happy with that. Just got to make my cap now to thread into this. Again, this is not like the cleanest brass. This is just scrap pipe I got from work. Pretty old too. A lot of water has been going through these pipes for quite some time now. So I imagine not going to clean up perfectly perfect, but this will be cool when I'm done with it, I assure you. All right, and for my cap, I'm going to use this heavy stuff. I got some 4340 steel. Well, at least that's what it says on the chunk anyways. But it's just big enough. So I'm going to cut a piece off with the arrow grinder and I'll get it back in here and start making a cap for this. All right, I got my chunk of steel cut off for a cap. I'll get this chucked up in the lathe and flush it out because it's not the greatest cut. And it's still hot. So I got this napkin. So I like to keep this loose and just drive this pin right into it to get this nice and flush. Should be good. Doesn't have to be perfect over here. Put that guy back in. All right. Let me see if I can get this set up in a different spot. I don't think you can really see it. There's no good way to set up a camera here. It really is just like a hard spot to do it. I got no space in the back of the lathe to do it. Or maybe I do. Hold on a sec. All right, with this side turned down, I'm just gonna flip it over and do the other side. With this steel, I had like a little bit of deflection, so it isn't perfectly smooth, but I can deal with that later on. But at least for now, it's pretty much flat to where I can keep going with this project. So I'll get it out and turn it around, and I'll face the other side off. This side, I'm just gonna chuck it in these little slots right here. I won't tighten it quite yet. I'll use this center to push it flat against the chuck here, and then I'll tighten it on the chuck with the handle here. So I'll keep this kind of loose, let it float. Tighten this handle into it. Now it's nice and tight. Then I'll crank this down. Get this out of the way. All right, now we'll surface this side. All right, I would say it's pretty much good for now. There's a lot of deflection here, but it's pretty much as flat as I'm gonna get it, at least for now. But I can move on to the next step because a lot of this is gonna be drilled out anyways. You're not gonna see it, so it don't really matter. All right, going back to the cylinder here, I just need to measure this inside bore here. And the way I'm gonna do it might be a little bit wrong, a little bit different. I'm actually just gonna make it so that these digital calipers are just a hair bigger than the hole here, which I want to say is right about roughly right there. Yeah, roughly right there. So on this piece, I'm just going to go about halfway in. I'm just going to turn it down to about this diameter, and then I'll make some threads to screw into that cap there, well, to that body that I just made there. Obviously, we got a ways to go. So I'll start turning this down. I'll get it down to this size roughly, and then we'll go from there. All right, this is gonna take me a little bit, so I'll check back in once I get down to that size of the digital calipers. I still have a ways to go. So once I get to that point, I'll check back in. All right, here's my piece, and I got it down to the size I need it. This fits on. There's like a little bit of play, so I actually went down smaller than I needed to, but I think I'm still in good shape because when I make the threads, it still is, seems like it might be just a hair bigger, which is what I want. I always want to be a little bigger, and then I can fine tune it afterwards. Well, this just works for me, and maybe not the right way to do this, but this is just the way I do it, and it works for me. I think that's actually good right where it is. So next, I need to make a little gutter right in here in the shoulder. That way when I do my threads, it has somewhere to clean out the chips. So I'll make a little gutter, and then we can start making some threads on this for a cap. And I'll switch out my crappy bit here. This bit's chipped and everything, but it still makes the cut. Still does what I need to do. I'll switch back over to my fine point over here, and we'll start doing this gutter. All right, like I was just saying, I'm just gonna make a little gutter right in here. Nothing too big, but big enough to where I can make my break when I do my threads, so I don't go crashing into the side of this. All right, how far do I want to go back? I think right about there. So I'm just going to work this tool post back and forth, just going back and forth, dig it in each time. Just going back and forth. I'm just going to do a couple more. And that should be deep enough. Yeah, so the little shoulder just makes a nice break point when I'm doing my my threads here. That way when it goes across the saddle, I can break it off right there and have just enough room to not crash into anything, which is a small margin for error. All right, next we need the thread tool, which will be this guy. I think I'm just gonna keep this angle right here. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, I think we're ready to make some threads. I got my machine set up to where I need it, and we'll start doing some passes. Nice, threads are already looking pretty good. Not too bad, so I'll just do like a quick test fit. I'll see how we're looking here. But I think I have to go a lot deeper for sure. Yeah, not even close. So I'll do a couple more passes. I'll see where that gets me. All right, let's see where that brings me. All right, so obviously this is still like a little bit bigger in diameter. So what I'm gonna do is switch back to my other fine point tool. I'm gonna leave everything engaged. I'm not gonna move this or nothing. So I'll leave it the way it is, but I'm just gonna knock this diameter down just a tick. See what that does. It's still a little big. Go down a little bit more. All right, I'll leave it right there. I'll put my thread tool back on here. As long as it's in the same spot and you can get it back, you keep clicking it. How do I say this? This is always going to be in the same spot if you keep switching tools back and forth. As long as you have this, set, it'll always be in the same spot. So it's okay. Well, in my case, it works for me. So I'll just do another couple passes on the thread machine now. See where I'm at here. I think right there. All right, let's see what that does for me. All right, I can feel it now that it does want to go in. It wants to start to go in, thread in. So I'm gonna do a couple more deeper passes, and then I think it'll fit. I think we'll be good. See if that fits. And now she goes on nice and smooth. I'll just hit it with a little sandpaper just to get up the burrs. And with that, we have a cap, but we're not done yet. This being steel, it's still pretty heavy for what it is. So I'm just gonna drill at the center a little bit just to get rid of some of the metal that's in there. I always go up to a 3/4 inch bit before I start my boring, because that's as big as the hole I gotta make before I can get my bore tool inside the holes. So I'm pretty much gonna open this hole, maybe so that there's only like 1/4 of an inch of shoulder left, just to knock out some weight out of this cap. Makes it look kind of neat too as well. Yeah, I didn't think you could see it. This is hard to film. There's no good spot with my lathe up against the wall. I wish I could have the camera over here somewhere, but it's kind of hard to set up. Eventually, maybe I'll make something that can do it. So this does take a long time, so I'll just kind of do it and then I'll show when it's done. All right, so the inside came out pretty good. I'm all about it. I think it came out good. Nice. That's perfect the way I need it. And then we'll just slide this guy back on. So yeah, that fits out pretty good. Now the only thing left I have to do is clean up this side. So I'll just, we'll drop it there, but we'll take it out. And then we'll just slap the brass in here. See how that looks spinning. That's pretty good. Happy with that. All right, perfect. Yeah, so we're just gonna turn this down now. Smooth this out. I'm not going to go nuts with the cap because I have an idea for later on in the build for the top of these. But I'll just get it somewhat smooth as best I can. It does have a lot of deflection. I don't know why. Maybe the RPMs are not fast enough on the machine, or maybe my tools are a little bit dull, one or the other. Either way, we'll get this cleaned up and then that'll be looking pretty good. Now for this piece, I'm gonna probably get it just about the same diameter as the brass. Almost seamless, if you will. Usually you'd want the auto feed so you get like a nice finished surface, but I try and just do it as best I can with my hands. Try not to pause in between when you're spinning it, especially in your final cuts. You wanna just make it a smooth cut as possible. It'll give you your best finish without a lot of sanding to do afterwards. All right, that feels pretty good. Nice and seamless. But like I said, I think I'm gonna change up the front cap a little bit later on down the build. Maybe do some kind of epoxy cap with a logo on it or something. Go over here and give a little chamfer on the edge. That looks pretty good. And then we'll just kind of, what do I got over here? I got some 320 grit. I'll probably make it look like something. Yeah, I'll be sitting there for hours with that. That's at a later time. It's not critical that this looks perfect right now. It just needs to be 90% done. The Scotch-Brite. All right. So now we got this going on. See all the lines in my cap here? There's a lot of deflection. And my tool's probably dull, so one or the other, but there's my cap. Not too bad. Obviously there's still some scars in this brass here, but it'll live, she'll live. All right, so after you spend about 9 hours, 10 hours on the lathe, you get 3 of these guys. And obviously some came out better than others, but they're all pretty much identical. This one came out the smoothest. I want to say because this is stainless and these two are not stainless, and the stainless just cuts better in the lathe for some reason. But yeah, these are all caps. They're basically sealed tubes you could put stuff in. I don't know, maybe like some brake fluid, maybe for the clutch and the brakes. When you line them all together like that, they look kind of good, don't they? So yes, these are going to be the brake and clutch reservoirs for the brake fluid. These are going to be holding the fluid, and they're pretty heavy and robust for what they are. A bit excessive, but they're cool and they go with the brass theme that I'm going for. So next I would need brake fittings on the bottom. So I'm thinking these little flares, I could tap holes, put these on the bottom. I just don't know if I want them at the bottom yet or on the side. So I'll have to figure that out next. But I'll show you where these are going to live inside the car. They got a nice little home. So I'm thinking something right there. I can do something with these brake reservoirs. I just need to make a holder for them, make them all align like they should. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think that looks kind of cool the way it is right there. Alright, we're going to end this one here, guys. Thanks for watching. Maybe in the next episode or two, we'll get these plumbed in. And maybe with a final destination where they're going to finally live. But for now, the 3 tubes are made. They're 90% done. And at a later time, obviously in the build, before like paint, you know, the final assembly, we'll get these nice and cleaned up as best we can. But we do have some marks in here. But that's alright. They'll look nice when they're finally in their home. Cannot tell you how heavy these pieces are. They are not light. You hear that jingle? You already know what time it is. It's time for brass. Brass, brass, brass. I love brass.